You're listening to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast with Wendy Johnson, episode number 72.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast, where women come to be inspired and motivated to become the best version of themselves and elevate the quality of their everyday. Now, here's your host, certified life coach, Wendy Johnson.
Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're tackling a topic that often keeps us from reaching our true potential, the fear of failure. We'll be diving into why we fear failure, how it holds us back, and most importantly, how we can turn these experiences into powerful comebacks. If you've ever held back because you worried about messing up, today's episode is for you. Let's start by unpacking what the fear of failure really means. For some, it's the fear of looking incompetent or disappointing others. For others, it's tied to their self-worth, believing that failing at something means they are in some way less than. This fear can come up from a combination of past experiences, perfectionism maybe, or societal pressures that glorify success without showing the journey, which is often filled with failure and making mistakes. Let me give you an example. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, which he tried thousands of times before getting it right. Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This quote shows us how resilient people view failure as part of the process. I'd like to ask you to think about a time when fear of failure held you back from an opportunity. I encourage you to write down the specific thoughts and feelings that came up and then challenge those beliefs. Did it really mean you weren't capable? Or was it more about the discomfort of trying something new? There's a cost of avoiding failure. When we avoid failure, we often avoid growth. Think of it this way. Avoiding failure is like keeping yourself locked in a small room with all the familiar comforts. It feels safe, but you're not experiencing life beyond those four walls. The cost of staying in this comfort zone can mean missed opportunities, unfulfilled potential, and in the long run, a sense of regret. This is why so many people on their deathbed have regrets of things they didn't do. One of my favorite stories is about J.K. Rowling. Before she published Harry Potter, she faced rejection from 12 publishers living in near poverty. She continued because she believed in her story. And now she's one of the most successful authors in history, which would have been impossible had she given in to her fears. I want to encourage you to write down one area of your life where you're holding yourself back because of fear. Consider what you might be missing out on if you never take that risk. This reflection can reveal the hidden cost of letting fear dictate decisions. Now I want to talk about reframing failure as feedback. A shift in perspective can change how we see failure. Instead of seeing it as a definite end, viewing it as feedback, a tool that can point you in a new direction. Failure isn't a judgment of your worth, but a sign that you're learning. This feedback helps us grow, adapt, and even pivot to something that is better suited to us. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she spent her early days filled with rejections and no's, but she kept adapting her pitch and product. Each setback was a chance to improve. Blakely even shares how her father would ask her each week, "What did you fail at this week?" to normalize failure and to treat it as part of growth. Usually we ask ourselves, what did we do well this week? Not what did we fail at? One mindset exercise I encourage you to do is to reflect on a recent setback and write down 3 things that you learned from it. This could be about the approach you used, the resources you might need in the future, or even the personal strengths you discovered because you attempted it. This can turn your failure into a constructive experience. To move forward, we need to build resilience. Resilience is the backbone of every comeback story. It's what allows us to keep going even when we're faced with setbacks. And resilience is built over time by facing small, everyday challenges head on. It's about adapting, learning, and finding the strength to try again. The basketball great Michael Jordan, who famously said he missed more than 9,000 shots in his career and lost almost 300 games, he was cut from his high school basketball team, but he persisted, saying, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." I like that he looked at where he was losing and not what he was doing to accomplish all his wins. There's one thing you can do to build a daily resilience practice, and that is to take small actions like journaling about your wins and losses each day, practicing focusing on both, and then practicing self-compassion to keep setting goals that stretch you out of your comfort zone. The goal is to build a resilience muscle daily to show that comebacks aren't just possible but achievable. Let's look at some real life examples. Let me start with Oprah Winfrey. She was fired from her first TV job, but went on to become an iconic media figure. When I graduated from college, I had quite a few interviews the first few months after graduation, and I wasn't getting hired, but the job I really wanted showed up. And I had that job for a couple of years, and it was one of my favorite careers. I was setting myself up and pivoting to what was really meant for me. So look at your setbacks and see them as a way to a better path. And then look at a comeback in your own life. What did you learn from it? How did you feel after getting back up? Did you see yourself as resilient and capable and having the ability to overcome challenges? Let's get into some practical tools you can use to overcome the fear of failure. The first tool is visualization. Research shows that visualizing yourself succeeding helps your brain feel more prepared and confident. Imagine yourself taking that risk and handling setbacks gracefully. This mental practice makes real-world actions easier. And the second tool is creating SMART goals. And those SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. When you break up the goals into steps, it reduces your overwhelm and builds confidence with each step you take and you complete. And the third tool is self-compassion. Remember that failure is universal. Everybody fails. And studies show that practicing self-compassion can reduce the fear of failure. I encourage you to speak to yourself like you would a close friend. And the fourth tool is using growth mindset affirmations. You could say an affirmation like, I'm learning with each attempt, or mistakes are part of my success. Repeating these phrases helps shift your thinking from having a fixed mindset to a growth-focused mindset. And now to close, remember, failure isn't an end, it's part of the journey. Each setback brings valuable lessons, new perspectives, and a chance to prove your resilience. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's continue to face life's challenges with courage, turn setbacks into comebacks, and remember that extraordinary growth often comes from the times when things don't go as planned. I look forward to being with you next week. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, you have to come check out More You, my community of like-minded women. We show up to create the highest version of ourselves and elevate the quality of our everyday along the way. Head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/join. That's ontraclifecoaching.com/join. I'd love to see you in there. And if you haven't grabbed your copy of the Mindset Makeover, head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/makeover and get a copy that teaches and inspires you to show up as your most extraordinary self.